Welcome to the Year in Review, Schall Consulting Edition. Before I get started, I do want to thank everybody for making this my most impactful year as a professional. I know I said that last year, but I was able to build on the momentum of the last couple of years, and I believe this year was my best year ever. It seems the stuff I've been barking about over the last few years really resonated this year as the world was engulfed in uncertainty and it seemed like risk was elevated at any corner. You guys gave me your attention, and I'm totally humbled at that because I know that is the most valuable thing that you own. And for those that consumed any of the pieces of content and took it a step further and actually implemented something that I said in their video and it provided value to them, where can I send you guys the invoice? Totally joking, but those that did privately message me and tell me that they did get some value from something I said, that means the world to me. Thank you for trusting me enough to put some of what I say into practice in your business. For my clients, this was a wild ride that I don't think any of us are going to forget anytime soon. You guys trusted me more than anybody else, and I can't thank you enough for putting that trust in me. I know that I put in every bit of effort and every bit of my blood, sweat, and tears, I guess you could say, left it all on the playing field this year for you guys. And something I don't normally do in these recap videos, the last two that I've done, is share kind of some of the things I learned over the year, and I just want to kind of share several of them. The first one being that unfortunately, in this constant pursuit of success and just me constantly always having goals and put my blinders on and really try to focus on what I'm doing, that ultimately has brought up some blind spots. And in a year like 2020, when a lot of those things were brought to light, I took the time to really realize that I was not being a positive, active participant in the process. I wasn't being a bad actor or negative person within any of the divisive events that were happening across 2020, but I'd always kind of used as an excuse that I was going to use my capital, and long term that was going to be the best chance for me to shape the way that I believe society should look in the future. But that was really just a crutch for me not to act in the short term. And I know that I have a voice and I know that I have a unique way of thinking about things. And I really plan on making 2021 and any of the next few years really to amplify that voice and provide some value in the short term to a lot of these areas that I feel like I can be a change agent and a champion of change. The second one is that I kind of always knew that I was a wartime CEO, but because of the timing in terms of when I came into becoming a professional, I graduated my MBA in 2009. That was on the back end of the last kind of recession, and I was really kind of low entry management level at that time, didn't have much chance to really put a lot of that stuff into action. And then when I started Schall Consulting, it was in 2011, 2012, and things were obviously going up and things were going well, and I was in peacetime. A lot of my clients were operating in peacetime, expanding, and everything was going pretty well until this year hit. And I was able to really kind of put in a lot of the practice, a lot of what I've learned over the years, and some of the things that I've kind of always tried to train myself to become and kind of prep myself for in terms of wartime. And it really gave me the opportunity to show that I understood the rules of strategic management, understood when to follow some of those best practices or some of those rules, and honestly when to break them. So really kind of reinforced a lot of what I've been doing over the last couple of years. And the last one is around just the insane work capacity that I have. I've always been somebody that's worked extremely hard. The person that I've modeled my professional life has been my father, just because he was an entrepreneur, and honestly, he worked extremely hard, and it's just something that I've always thought that was the backbone of any success that I was going to have in this world. But this was kind of one of those years where I took it up to even more of an extreme level. I think I took 11 days total off across the whole year, not 11 days plus all the weekends. It's 11 days completely out of 365 days, no holidays, nothing like that. It's not something that I want to really sustained long term. I'm happy that I was able to push through it and be able to do what I needed to do to get through this year and really kind of get a lot of the goals and growth projections and really take advantage of the good position that I was in this year. And I really wanted to make sure that I was able to kind of squeeze any juice out of this year that I could. It's obviously something that I have needed to really pay attention to how I have been mentally. I have not been, luckily, not mentally exhausted or not shown any kind of real like mental health deterioration or anything like that. Obviously, this is something you have to pay attention to long term, but I'm happy to say that I've not noticed anything. And this is something that I'm obviously self-aware enough to realize that this can't sustain long term, but it is something that I had to, endure this year. Everybody had their own struggles, and this was something that I chose. I didn't complain about it. I just woke up each day. I was excited to go to work. I was excited to do the best work that I could do each day. And if I had the choice between, having to deal with maybe some of the outside distractions and a lot of what other people were dealing with in this year over me having to work long hours, I think I came out pretty good in this situation. Want to shift a little bit towards like recapping the 5 goals that I shared in last year's year in review video, just so you guys can see like how I did. The first one was around having more quality and quantity of original content that I created throughout the year. I did achieve that. I made a post recently talking about maybe why I ramped that up specifically to even higher of a level than I thought this year. And that kind of rolls into the second goal that I had, was to speak more publicly. Unfortunately, I was only able to do that once in person. I was able to do a few other speaking engagements that were like webinars or digital live events or things like that, but nothing in person. That was mostly because of COVID. I did have 5 or 6 confirmed. I had 2 international events that were also confirmed throughout 2020 to speak at. So I thought that goal was already knocked out by when I hit March, but unfortunately things kind of crumbled around me because of COVID. So I ended up kind of like really focusing on that goal number 1 and making sure that I did as much as I could. The third goal I had was around securing a board seat. And though I had a few kind of like earmarked ones that I really would have liked to have, those did not move forward. They ended up either going in a different direction or not implementing a board at this point. The fourth goal I had was to spend less time in my Austin, Texas home office and out more in my clients. Again, COVID kind of wrecked that one. I was not able to do that. I think the first 2 months heading into Expo West, I had been doing a ton of traveling, but everything at that point just kind of went south at that point. And then the rest of the year, I only was able to do a few trips. And then the last one was kind of like stealthy and just talking about like a big giant move towards a 5-year goal that I had. And I was able to achieve that, but I'm not going to really talk too much about that at this point, just because that is some sensitive information, things that I'm not comfortable sharing yet. And having that goal kind of put out there publicly, want to share some quick stats from my Schall Consulting clients. I did have 29 total clients. That was up from last year. Most of those extra clients really came from like that March to June timeframe, when a lot of things were kind of going crazy and people were looking to do a lot of like ad hoc projects. These clients were within 5 countries. Most of them were in the United States and Canada. On the brand side, I did have clients focused on food items, beverage items, nutritional supplements, and almost all of those were within what we would call like value added or functional categories. Outside of like the brands, I also worked with retailers, I worked with contract manufacturers, I worked with input suppliers, and also service providers. This year, the largest collection of clients were again in the nutritional supplement section, since that's where I've cut my teeth. That really is where a lot of my clients seem to come from. But within that, most of them are now focusing on functional food and beverages. So most of those clients are kind of not the traditional kind of caps, powders, pills companies. Food projects that I did work on this year were protein bars and other protein snacking items. both sweet and savory snacks. We had some keto items, we had some CBD items, and we also had some plant-based items. And then from the beverage side, we had energy drinks, we had protein RTDs, obviously. We had some coffee plus categories, we had some alcoholic beverages, and also some value-added water beverages. Throughout the year, I think I counted somewhere around 65 new products were launched for a total of over 200 SKUs when you count different variants and different flavors. These are totally new products, not just counting additional variants of existing products that were within portfolios before I became part of the companies. This year, the most talked about area within the businesses or clients that I worked with was contingency planning, which was totally different than the years prior. It's always been some type of product or ingredient or category or retailer, but this one was around contingency planning. Was able to help 2 companies exit their business and also 4 companies attain outside funding. Shifting this into like personal branding or just content creation, and I don't consider myself a content creator by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just somebody that likes to put out content that is around my passion. I don't necessarily really look at metrics. I don't look at a lot of things that would probably make my content have a lot more views. I just really want to learn and gain more knowledge. And the way that I do that is from writing or putting together videos or podcasts or anything like that. That's how I've always been able to apply and learn and dig deeper on a lot of subjects that maybe normally I would just kind of skim over. Also, has the great ability for me to kind of put things to market, test things, see how people react to different strategies, different things. And many of you know kind of a backstory about why I've created as much content as I have or why I continue to create content. And that's mostly around trying to leave the industries that I work in better than where I found them. And not to say that I am going to be the saving grace in any stretch of the imagination, but if I can add 0.00001% to the industry, help it out, I'm going to do that. And though I have been able to do that with working with hundreds of clients at this point, over 8.5 years of Schall Consulting, the content far and away obviously reaches a lot more people. And that does take a little bit of the person on the other side, the receiving end of that content, to actually apply that into their business, be that directly or indirectly. But that does create a lot more value than just doing one-on-one management strategy consulting. So this is why I've continued to create as much content, free content, as I have over the years. And just to kind of update you guys on how I did this year, I was able to create, I think, over 130 new original YouTube videos. I was able to create over 50 original articles. I also launched the Joshua Schall audio experience, so the podcast audio only experience as well. As I mentioned earlier, I was only able to speak at one in-person event because of COVID. I was still able to meet hundreds of new people, either through email, through social, through in-person events, the few that I did. Some of those early client visits in Q1. Also finished up year 2 of the Two Guys, One Shaker Cup podcast I do with Ryan Buckeye. If you guys haven't checked that one out, it's a lot of fun. Show a little bit more personality in those videos than maybe I do on my own channel. But overall, I was able to, like I said, check off last year's goal of producing more professional original content than I have in any other previous year. And I'm proud of being able to do all that while also growing my consulting business and a few other of my business ventures. A lot of that comes down to that kind of insane work schedule. But talking about what's next in terms of like 2021, I'm actually going to save that for the next video. I'm going to talk about my yearly goal setting and just kind of how I've done it over the last decade, how it's been a key piece of me being successful over the years. And within that, I'll also be more transparent in that video about my 2021 goals. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.